It wouldn't have been a year in gaming without some controversies. After all, you don't get to be one of the biggest entertainment mediums on the planet without ruffling a few feathers. Let's take a look at the nominees for biggest controversy of 2017. The Last of Us Part 2 Excessive Violence. Anyone who's played the first game knows that this universe isn't all hugs and happy feelings. However, it was hard not to be a little uncomfortable when The Last of Us Part 2 was showcased at Paris Games Week with a woman having her arm broken and another being hanged. The trailer would attract controversy for its portrayal of violence against women, but Sony's Jim Ryan defended it, stating that the game was made by adults to be played by adults. Detroit Become Human. Domestic Abuse. As if offering a preview of the violence to come with The Last of Us Part 2, Quantic Dream showcased Detroit Become Human at the same conference. The demo itself saw a little girl being abused by her father, who can even kill her at one point. The inherent reveal of him killing her mother, and Kara's role to play in all of this. Needless to say, it garnered tons of controversy for all kinds of reasons. Of course, creator David Cage defended the scene, and really, you can go either way on the whole thing if you wanted. Star Wars Battlefront 2 Pay to Win. Attempting to recap this whole saga of blunders would be even more painful than narrating the prequel trilogy. Basically, EA revealed that star cards could be acquired in Star Wars Battlefront 2 through loot boxes. Players were angry over the pay-to-win implications since loot boxes could be purchased with real money. Changes were made and the EA/Origin Access trial went live. The pay-to-win problems remained, and on top of all of this, the rate for earning credits and unlocking heroes was far too high. EA made further changes. The backlash continued. EA disabled microtransactions for the time being. In short, the whole controversy capped off a horrible year for EA. Forza Motorsport 7. Loot boxes. It wasn't so much that Turn 10 Studios had implemented microtransactions at launch for Forza Motorsport 7. In fact, it hadn't, though they very well could come later, like with the previous games. No, Forza Motorsport 7 drew controversy for its inclusion of loot boxes which could contain cars, cosmetics, and race mods. It was still possible to earn cars with enough credits and XP, but even that highlighted the VIP Pass changes, which no longer conferred permanent double XP for each race or the lack of XP bonuses for higher Drivatar difficulties. The former was thankfully rectified by Turn 10, though the game remains controversial for its loot boxes. Middle-earth Shadow of War Loot Boxes. If the loot box epidemic wasn't enough, Middle-earth Shadow of War revealed that it would package orc followers and gear into loot boxes. It's worth noting that you can still level up, find loot, and recruit followers by playing the game normally. However, when you reach the end game, Shadow War's activity, which is the gateway to the true ending, mind you, those high-tier followers and gear really become valuable. This further incentivizes either buying loot boxes or pouring hours of grinding into the game. And if gear and followers are abundant enough, why have loot boxes at all? It also doesn't help that the Shadow Wars portion is monotonous as hell. Visceral Games shut down. Electronic Arts hasn't exactly had the best year, but it did have some intriguing releases to look forward to, like Visceral Games' untitled Star Wars title. With Uncharted series director and writer Amy Hennig at the helm, what could go wrong? Well, as it turns out, everything, as the announcement was made that the project was being shifted to another EA studio and Visceral Games' closure. Though many assumed that the shift was done to make it a more games-as-service title, reports from Kotaku's Jason Schreier indicated that the game has had development problems for a while now. Either way, Visceral Games was no more, and it sucked. Mass Effect Andromeda's development issues. Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare Montreal's first full-fledged video game, was another EA disaster. Upon release, Andromeda was soundly mocked for its storytelling, glitches, quest design, world design, performance issues, awful multiplayer balancing, and much, much more. However, once again, thanks to Kotaku's Jason Schreier, reports began to surface of development troubles. Along with problems working with Frostbite, the studio didn't have a clear direction or premise. The game itself was put together within 19 months at best, and unfortunately, it showed. BioWare Montreal is now more or less a skeleton studio, while the Mass Effect franchise is on the back burner. Persona 5 streaming controversy. What's the best way to avoid spoilers leaking from your huge new role-playing game, which has been available in Japan for a while anyway? Well, lay out guidelines for streamers and YouTubers to follow. If they fail to follow this, issue content strikes. This was the approach that Atlus took to avoid spoilers for Persona 5's story being leaked. Needless to say, it backfired tremendously. Sony's approach to crossplay. We've been hearing about cross-platform play for a while now, especially as Microsoft announced its initiative for cross-play through Xbox Live. These goals would slowly become reality as cross-play with mobile, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox users was announced for Minecraft. Sony wasn't too interested to join in the party and made several remarks disparaging the concept, despite having cross-platform play with Rocket League on the PS4 and PC. While Sony haven't backed down on the same, not going with crossplay hasn't exactly harmed their bottom line either. It is what it is. PUBG developer not happy with FORTNITE Battle Royale. Imagine a relationship between Epic Games and Bluehole Studio, the latter having developed the monstrously successful PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Bluehole licensed Unreal Engine 4 from Epic Games. Suddenly, Epic Games comes out with FORTNITE Battle Royale, its own spin on the genre, and references PUBG in the marketing. Suffice to say, Bluehole wasn't happy about the similarities. While it didn't pursue any legal action, citing it doesn't mind other companies trying their own versions of Battle Royale, it's certainly a little too protective of a concept that's not wholly its own. And the winner is Star Wars Battlefront 2 Pay to Win. The fact that EA shoehorned microtransactions into Star Wars Battlefront 2 to provide players with advantages in multiplayer was bad enough. The fact that the credit cost for heroes was so high because of a sense of pride and accomplishment was simply awe-inspiring in the lack of thought. However, the backlash continued after the microtransactions were removed because gating any kind of competitive progress behind loot boxes is preposterous. There's also the fact that for all of this talk of AAA games becoming more expensive to produce, Star Wars Battlefront 2 still had a number of problems. The single-player campaign was woefully short and awful. Multiplayer was buggy, and so many things, from hero battles to maps, needed more work. Still, seeing this kind of sweeping change and pushback against loot boxes was simply unprecedented for the industry and a warning sign for numerous publishers. To that end, Star Wars Battlefront 2 and its pay-to-win trappings is the biggest controversy of 2017. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.